This is Greg Oxton with the Consortium for Service Innovation, and this is our consortium member update. We will be recording this if anybody wants to share it with others at your company. And the agenda this morning, well, I'm also on the phone is Kelly Murray and Melissa George from the consortium and Jennifer Mortcat from the KCS Academy.
And Jill's here too.
Oh, I didn't see Jill on the list. And Jill. So we thought we'd quickly cover the 5 initiatives and some of the highlights of the work we've done. But perhaps most importantly is give you a tour of the new library functionality, which we hope helps you all find all this great stuff that we're doing in terms of meeting notes and presentations and things. We've moved everything from where we used to have a wiki into the library, and Kelly's going to give us a tour of that. So that, I think, will be the highlight of the session. Then we'll have an update on the KCS Academy and what's going on with certification programs, a little bit about what's ahead, and some upcoming events. So that's our plan. We have about 50 members. This is our current board of directors. I don't think we've had any changes in the past year on the board of directors. This is the staff. Very exciting news, actually. And of course, we all sort of work on both the consortium and the academy activities. A new member of the staff is Jennifer Mortcat, who mostly works with the KCS Academy and is our customer success manager for exams and certification programs and things. So welcome, Jennifer. And then the other big news is that Matt Seaman will be joining the staff as the executive director in January. And I will move to a part-time role for probably the next year or so, helping with the transition. But we are thrilled to have Matt join us. Matt's, of course, one of our consortium innovators and has been with us for many years, and a primary driver, actually, of the predictive customer engagement model. And he's leaving his position of vice president at PTC to join us as our new executive director. So that's very exciting. Member companies, we have about 50. There's a list on our website if you ever want to check out who the members are. A bit of activity in terms of new members in 2019, so a number of companies. It used to be that it was KCS that really attracted people to the consortium. That was kind of the point of entry, or the topic of interest that got people interested in membership. We're now seeing it's both KCS and intelligent swarming as attracting new members and interest in those topics. So that's good. I would say the membership is about as strong as it's ever been in the 20 plus years of our existence. And we've had quite a bit of activity. We did the member summit in Napa, and we had 100 people. It was actually sold out. The meeting space was at capacity. And we'll talk a little bit about our member summit for 2019, but the level of interest so far, at least anecdotal interest in the member summit in April in Maine, seems to be very high. So we're expecting to be sold out for that one as well. We did our executive summit a few weeks ago in Seattle, had 19 folks join us, and a very interesting discussion. We did 8 team meetings. So our team meetings are the working sessions where members get together and share their experiences on specific topics. So we had 8 of those. Those are face-to-face, and then 6 in the US, 2 in Europe. Average number of attendees was around 15, which is a nice size group to get work done. The largest meeting was in Needham, Massachusetts with 20, where we were talking about machine learning and artificial intelligence and all the things that fit under the digital automation umbrella, which continues to be a major focus and topic of discussion. We had 93 different people participate in team meetings in 2018, which is a nice, healthy number. Then we held 8 web sessions. So we typically do a team meeting every other month and a web session the other months, unless we're doing one of the summits, the member summit or the executive summit. Those are our 2 biggest events. But so 8 web sessions through the course of the year, and quite a bit of participation on that. So lots of activity, which is a good thing. And we have the activities arranged around 5 initiatives. So KCS, which is the oldest and most mature, intelligent swarming, the predictive customer engagement model, the customer success initiative, and the leadership in an adaptive organization. And there's quite a bit of energy in the industry, at least in the high-tech industry, around Agile. And we're starting to see that the Agile principles and concepts are very much the same as the principles and concepts that are the foundation of most all of our work. And so we've had a couple of very good conversations around aligning KCS, intelligent swarming, predictive customer engagement, and the leadership model to Agile, because it's quite widely adopted across the industry. So it's a nice, we're not going to rename the initiatives, but we're going to identify how they relate to Agile and hopefully get some additional attention. Topics covered, customer success initiative, KCS, and the tagline we're using is Agile Knowledge Management. KCS across the organization, that was hosted by Dell in Cork, and they have quite an initiative around KCS and professional services. All the automation conversation, intelligent swarming, predictive customer engagement, KCS across the organization. So those are the topics at the team meeting. These are the topics covered by both the consortium web sessions, and the KCS Academy also does a KCS in Action web session with featuring interesting stories of KCS success or how people are approaching some of the challenges they face in KCS adoption. So lots of activity with web sessions. So some of the highlights, the KCS, we published the KCS V6 adoption guide that was released at the member summit. And I think a number of updates to that, but the primary ones are the ones that are perhaps the most interesting. The new stakeholder engagement matrix, which we've developed through a number of conversations over the past 2 years, that really focuses on how do you sustain people's interest in doing KCS and what are some of the key stakeholder engagement milestones along the adoption. So if you haven't seen that, that's worth a look. And the description of the Center of Excellence. So we've had a number of members produce or create centers of excellence within their organizations, typically for very large organizations that have multiple adoption threads going on over time. Lots of interest around KCS across the organization. Of course, the University of Phoenix is one of the leaders in that in terms of adopting KCS within their legal, within their enrollment, within their, just across their entire business. And we're starting to see interest from HR and legal and professional services and other member organizations as well. So that's pretty exciting to see these principles and practices embraced by other information or knowledge intensive functions within the company. Ideas for automation is another topic. It's been a point of conversation, I would say, in each of the initiatives, because the emerging digital automation capabilities of machine learning, cognitive computing, neural networks, sophisticated text analytics, and artificial intelligence. We're putting all of that under this umbrella we're calling digital automation. And we've had numerous conversations around the opportunities to apply these capabilities in each of the initiatives. The Evolve Loop in KCS and the work of the KDE can be greatly enhanced, I think, by leveraging some of these capabilities. And then we've had, as I mentioned, numerous conversations about agile knowledge management as a tagline for KCS. Intelligent swarming continues to grow in terms of its the level of interest from the members and the industry in general. We've made some updates to the design sessions, and we're getting a little organized around how we certify the trainers, our network of certified trainers on intelligent swarming, to enable them to add that to their portfolio of offerings. We're working on a framework or a guide for intelligent swarming. So to date, all the documentation is really in PowerPoint decks. So we're working on a document that will describe some of the key tenets of intelligent swarming and some of the lessons learned and adoption considerations and things, very much like the KCS Practices Guide, although not as prescriptive, because the number of different ways people approach doing intelligent swarming is pretty varied. So some ongoing work or challenges that we're still working on is the people profiles and how to automate that, and a reputation model in terms of assessing people's contribution in a highly collaborative environment. That, I think, continues to be a challenge. And then, of course, the opportunity to apply some of these automation capabilities. And a tagline, intelligent swarming is agile collaboration. Predictive customer engagement. We had a great conversation in one of the team meetings about how not to be creepy. And in order to be predictive, you really have to know a lot about your customers and a lot about your products. And you want to do that in a way that is serving the customer's interests and isn't perceived by them as being creepy. And so one of the fundamental premises that came out of that conversation was to have permission from the customer to use their data about them in order to be more predictive and provide them with a better service experience. So that poses some communications challenges. And then some of our early adopters of this model, particularly PTC, have shared some of their experiences with us, and getting customers to actually act on the recommendations is proving to be a challenge. You have to provide evidence of relevance, that the issue is relevant to the environment, consequences of not taking action, and even when you do those well, they still might not actually take the recommendation or act on the recommendation. So that's the motivation elements there are an interesting challenge. And of course, predictive customer engagement is hugely dependent on big data analytics and all the automation capabilities. And there's, of course, the opportunity to do machine-to-machine kind of interaction. So that work continues and continues to mature. The Customer Success Initiative, which is kind of the bigger picture, you could make a case that predictive customer engagement fits under the Customer Success Initiative, but we typically talk about them at different levels of ambiguity or different levels of abstraction, and that predictive customer engagement has gotten pretty detailed, and the Customer Success Initiative, I think, is still a little more strategic. We're updating the customer demand model, which we've often referred to as the funnel in the cloud, to include not only customer effort, the idea of new versus known, as well as predictive and automation capabilities. So there's a new model that we'll probably talk about quite a bit at the Member Summit in April, a new visual that integrates some of these emerging ideas. And of course, measuring the customer experience and customer success is always a challenge, and we continue to improve and update the measurements there in terms of the models for how we measure those. The Leadership Framework for Service Excellence, or Leading an Adaptive Organization. There's a recent paper by McKinsey that you might have thought they looked at a bunch of our work on this area, because they talked about it from an agile management perspective, and it has a lot of the same principles and concepts that we've developed over the last 5 to 10 years for how to lead a support network. So at the Executive Summit, we work on this and continue to iterate on these ideas. The power of a vision with a compelling purpose, a mission, values, and brand promise continues to be really the foundation of what people relate to. If they don't understand your brand promise, if you don't have one that's explicit, first of all, and secondly, if everybody doesn't know it, everyone who interacts with the customers doesn't know the brand promise, the likelihood their interactions with the customers are reinforcing that brand promise is pretty small. And this idea of alignment to a compelling purpose and values and the brand promise continues to be reinforced by a variety of research, as well as really aligns with the agile organization. There's apparently a movement called Agile at Scale that talks about a lot of these same concepts for companies to think about in terms of how they manage their entire business. And of course, reinforcing the communicate. And then the big challenge, I think, and responsibility of leadership is to provide the knowledge workers, the support agents, with visibility to the impact of their contribution. And if the organization can't do that or doesn't do that, the likelihood people will continue to play and add value or contribute value in a KCS model or in intelligence forming really diminishes. And we keep emphasizing this because it's hugely important and it's difficult, because a lot of the benefits are deferred gratification. So one of the things we're looking at doing in the coming months is getting a sense of what people are doing with respect to dashboards and how they're presenting data and information about people's impact by making a contribution. And then some leadership training modules, which we hope we'll have out in the next 6 months or so. So lots of good stuff. Some great conversations in the team meetings. And one of the big items is that we've hopefully improved your ability to find this. So I'm going to stop sharing and let Kelly share hers. Green.
There are a lot of buttons I'm needing to press right now. Here, let me see. Okay, so I have been putting some links in the chat. So links to the adoption guide, the stakeholder engagement matrix, the Center, KCS Center, building a KCS Center of Excellence, the article by McKinsey for the Agile Manager, and then a link to the library. So library.serviceinnovation.org. This was very much helped along by all the folks at MindTouch who really helped us migrate the content that was in the wiki, that has been in our wiki forever, into this one location. And for a long time, we've had our KCS content here. And so it's the members only wiki part that's new this year. So this is what you see. This is what everybody sees when they arrive at this page. And if you are logged in as a member, then you have access to the members only wiki. And everyone on this call, I made sure, if you were registered last night, I made sure that you have access to the wiki. If you didn't get an email with login credentials from MindTouch, you can go do a password reset, which you would do in this upper right-hand corner. Using your company name, your company email address as your username, and that will get you in. And so if we head into the wiki, this is what you will see. This is all organized by year. It gets a little less organized the later you go. 2018 is really well organized, and things before that, if you have any trouble finding things or links are broken, please let me know. The only thing in 2019 so far is our tentative meeting schedule. And so if you are curious about when we are planning various things for this upcoming year, we have, this is sort of a rough sketch. I will fill in topics and locations as we have them. And then I've linked to where you can register for meetings that are available to be registered for. So let's go back to my favorite view of the wiki is in a year. And so if you head into 2018, you have kind of the quick overview of all of the meetings that we had this year, their location and when it was. And then these are all the sub pages, all the things we talked about as part of this team meeting that have their own page here in the wiki. And one of the best, from my perspective, things about this, and they have it all the way at the bottom here, is that our collection of web sessions. And these, I think, are the most easily consumable pieces of content because these are all of the web sessions we've had this year and their recordings. So for example, KCS in action at Akamai, little bit of a description of what it is, and then the video is embedded right here. So the KCS in action web sessions are available here. It is after the member login, right? So those KCS in action phone calls are open to the public. And if you register for them, then I'll send the link out to the recording, but this is the place where they all live. And so to see them all together, that's after the member login. So the other exciting thing that this allows us to do, and I can't quite see doing this down a minute, there we go, is here on our website, I've been doing really quick team meeting summaries that are available to the public and putting these out on Twitter, because once we, now that we have a login situation, I've lost all my words this morning, we can talk about what we talked about at any particular team meeting. Then I put a list of reference links, and then notes and presentations will link right to the actual meeting, so that when you're logged in, this will take you right into all of the details from this meeting. So those were all the things I had to say about that. Is there anything else that you wanted me to show, Greg?
Chatting away here, muted. So, maybe just mention, if you didn't, the search capability is pretty good. So, like, if you maybe we're looking for information about people profiles, and you do a search, it will find all of the information from all the team meetings, actually from the entire library, right?
That's right, and then you can filter.
You can select whether you really want to see something in the wiki or in a practices guide, or
this is so this searches from the entire wiki. If it was a conversation that we had this year, you can filter down to the year and to the specific event. Yep.
So the navigation is either by event and time and event, or by topic.
Yes.
And so the big advantage here is that our wiki used to not be all that secure. It was a quiet URL. It didn't have passwords. And so this capability really allows us to manage visibility to content to the appropriate people based on membership, or we also have some pages for the trainers. If you're a certified trainer, when you log in, you'll see a tile that gives the trainers access to PowerPoint decks and trainer instruction guides and how to do the exercises and things like that. So it's really been a great uplift of our capability from a managing visibility to content to the right audiences. So maybe anyone have any questions, or has anybody tried it?
I haven't tried it, but I absolutely love it. So nice work. Organized very nicely. Truly appreciate all the work that went into that.
Thanks, Amy.
Okay, so now Melissa's going to talk about the activities in the Academy, the KCS Academy, which, as you may know, is a wholly owned subsidiary of the Consortium for Service Innovation that manages or facilitates the community at large, beyond members.
Well, I'm trying to share my screen, but now it's saying I have to grant access to something to do this, so I don't know what's going on. How's that look?
That looks like a slide.
Oh, good. So, Kathleen, that was very exciting and the most exciting part of the call. You've stole my glory around the KCS Academy, although the KCS Academy has done leaps and bounds this year and some very exciting engagement, particularly with the KCS in Action calls. And I want to thank all of the people who have presented and really shared without, honestly and openly shared their implementations around KCS and their adoption stories. We've had over 1,000 participants on those calls. And if you're not understanding the difference between the consortium and the academy is open to the public in a way to enable a network of people, KCS practitioners, as well as the vendors that are KCS aligned or verified, and the certified trainer program. So one of the ways we enable this network and make sure that we uphold the integrity of the KCS methodology is through certification programs. So these are the current certification programs that we have, both external trainers that offer public workshops, as well as organizations that have internal trainers certified, so they can train and certify people within their own organizations. That's been quite successful. Many of the organizations have also created a KCS Center of Excellence, where they can then have a core team of people that can deploy to other parts of the organization. So that's been very successful. Continue to have the workshops, as well as the online fundamentals training, and that again can be taken at an individual level or deployed at a corporate level within organizations. That's the entry-level training. We have continued to grow the list of verified vendors, and these are the vendors who have demonstrated that they have the functionality within their knowledge management tools to support the KCS methodology. So Come Around, MindTouch, ServiceNow, and Upland Right Answers are our current list of verified vendors. This program is quite rigorous, and I congratulate these companies and the people at these companies who have put the work in to creating, to get verified. And as a result of their verification, one of the things they have to complete is what we call the KCS Verified Self-Assessment form. And I'm guessing if you Googled this, you'll be able to see the list, the spreadsheet that they have to complete, and that's a generic one. So you'll see all of the functionality that we require, that they demonstrate that they either have it out of box or its configuration, how it's configurable, if it can be it has to be a consulting type activity to get that functionality to support the practices of KCS. And as a result, these vendors now hold their own list of how they can implement that functionality. So I encourage you, if you're looking at any of these tools, to reach out to these vendors and ask to see their self-assessment worksheets. We also run the Aligned program for vendors, and this is vendors who offer either one or up to 3 pieces of functionalities to support the KCS practices, or they offer services that support the KCS practices. So they could offer training around this, or they can offer consulting services, or they can offer a tool that supports one or more, or up to 3 of the KCS practices. Our newest one on that one is Dr. Beth's coaching program. And I know a lot of you are probably already familiar with that, but we've just kind of repositioned it as an aligned vendor. So we currently have a network of 46 KCS V6 certified trainers throughout the US, Europe, and Asia Pacific. We have, we support those trainers through calls. We have conference calls with them to make sure that they're updated on all of the latest and updates to the materials, as well as a quarterly newsletter. It's a true network where the trainers are sharing with each other. If they find something in the materials that they question or in the practices they question, it all comes back to this group of certified trainers to discuss some of the practices that they might question or people don't understand, and we update the materials based on the feedback that we get from them. The KCS V6 Fundamentals online training continues to get a lot of traction. We had 808 single purchases. These are people just coming to the website and signing up to take the online training. There is a certification exam that goes with that training as well that some of those people are taking. So we continue to grow that. Really, it's an awareness and it's an entry-level fundamentals certification that people can take before taking the practices, moving on to the more rigorous practices certification. There's also an option for organizations to buy an unlimited use license of the fundamentals. And what we're seeing happening is them in these internal companies incorporating that into their corporate training programs. So if they're training new people, for example, coming in to use their tools that they use within their support process, they'll incorporate the KCS fundamentals training as part of that, so they can learn KCS as well as their own internal processes. The exams continue to grow from year to year, starting from 2015. We made a lot of progress of getting more and more people involved in KCS. And these are just how they break down by exam. So the fundamentals is really reaching a much larger audience than it was. So what are we looking at for 2019? We'll continue to have focused strategy sessions with our board of directors and some key thought leaders in the area to figure out what's next with the Academy. Last year we had, or this, I guess it's this year, I've already moved on to 2019, but in 2018 we had started our first ever KCS World Tour. We had 3 stops, one in Boston, one in Germany, and one in Seattle, and had several hundred people participate in those world tours. So they're great success. So we're going to continue with those and do 3 stops again in 2019. And you'll see those up on our upcoming events as we get the details ironed out. We're going to expand our training offerings to leadership. There's always a great demand for leadership training. So starting with some micro learning modules, online learning modules for leadership, those are in development, as well as the work that's being done on intelligent swarming. So right now in the works is a practices guide for intelligent swarming. Jacob, I see you're on the phone. I remember you bringing it up at our meeting in Europe in the early spring. And so we have all this great stuff that can we organize it into a practices guide. And so that work is being done. And as soon as that work is complete, we will transition that into the training programs and make it part of the KCS Academy so that we can expand its reach into beyond just the membership. So that's in the works, and that's very exciting. And there's the question is, does intelligent swarming fit with the KCS Academy? And we decided the KCS Academy is not just about KCS, but it's going to be KCS and beyond, to include the other initiatives as they mature and are ready for kind of the larger group, or the larger visibility. Upcoming events. So we have the team meetings, which again are the working sessions of the members, and that list Kelly provided. If anything, that of all of the updates that we have, that's one of the most useful, is just so people can see the calendar of planned meetings throughout the year, what we're thinking, so they can get those onto their calendars. We have the next team meeting, which is definitely scheduled, is in Phoenix, and that will be KCS across the organization. The next website, Kelly, you'll have to help me with this one. The next web session is scheduled for,
I believe it's the week of January 14th. I don't know that we have a specific date yet, and it's going to be on translation, KCS and translation.
Yeah, that's the KCS in Action web session, right? The translation.
That's correct.
Session, and we'll continue to have the KCS in Action sessions. We tend to try to have the last week of every month, if we're available that week. So those will continue to be monthly KCS in Action web sessions. And we also have the big event of the year is the 2019 Member Summit, which is being held at the Cliff House in York, Maine. That's about an hour north of Boston. And don't let this picture mislead you, because typically in April, I'm not standing on the rocks in Maine. It will be cool, but still you will be able to have the beautiful view. They have very large windows, so you don't really have to go outside to get that beautiful view and enjoy that this beautiful space where we're having the event. The theme of the Member Summit will be emerging digital automation. Again, it continues to have a lot of traction on how we can really take the known issues within the environment and use automation to either eliminate the issues altogether, predict that we're going to have an event, or just simply make it easier to find the known issues through assisted chatbots, making search better, understanding what kind of knowledge that we have in the knowledge base. So there's lots and lots of opportunities in all of the initiatives within the consortium to use automation to start to really move away from solving lots of known issues to moving to more value-added new issues. And Greg, did you want to talk about this?
Yeah, so...
I forgot to stop.
So, sorry?
Turn it back over to you. I forgot when I was supposed to stop and turn it back over to you.
Okay, you want me to share my screen? Yeah.
Well, I can still just share this and you can talk.
Okay. So the conversation, I think, in leveraging automation really started with the predictive customer engagement model. But Melissa, I think for some reason we're getting that.
Yeah, your phone's doing the weird thing.
Doing a weird thing. So if you can you mute? And then we'll see. Okay, it's gone away. And so this is a variation on a model that is part of the predictive customer engagement framework. It's kind of an architecture. It's a pretty high level of abstraction that starts with big data and the data lake down on the bottom. That's kind of the foundation. You can't do any of this digital automation stuff if you don't have data. And the data has to be pretty good and pretty comprehensive. So there's lots of things we could talk about in terms of what that means. And the challenge of collecting it and cleaning it and associating data from different sources that might be about the same product or the same person. The next layer up is techniques and models and methods. So this is, cognitive computing, neural networks, sophisticated text analytics. There's easily a couple dozen different models and techniques that data scientists use to analyze data given a certain problem or certain capability, what they're trying to figure out from that data. So lots of stuff in the techniques, models, and methods section, and that is where data scientists typically have some expertise. The next layer up is capabilities, which is using those, a variety and sometimes a combination of techniques, models, or methods. You create the ability to recognize patterns, pattern recognition and clustering, or to make predictions based on a collection of data, or to make recommendations, or to identify opportunities for optimization. So in the conversations that we've had around this, the vocabulary is all over the place in terms of how people talk about it. We've kind of boiled it down to 4 primary capabilities that enable a certain outcome. And so if you wanted to know, what are the most frequently used articles across your self-service and internal support teams, using a cluster recognition or pattern recognition clustering of content would be the capability. The outcome would be the Pareto analysis of most frequently used articles, as an example. So one of the things, we've had a number of sessions with data scientists from our members over the last year and a half. And one of the things they often talk about is how important it is to start with a goal, to be very clear on what business problem you're trying to solve. That's the outcome. And well, you're going too fast, Melissa. So start with a goal, and then based on that outcome, identify what data you really need to do that, what techniques and methods, and then what are the capabilities to produce that outcome. And that's really the work that the data scientists do. The other way this can go is that if you have lots of data, there's some interesting things that can emerge from that. And so there's the idea of a view of the data using some of these techniques and models that can teach us some things. So one more advance, Melissa. So that's the opportunity to learn from a collection of data. I think most people, most of the members that have participated in these conversations start with the goal and a specific project, a specific business challenge they're trying to resolve, and then engage in the process sort of from the top down. I think once you get some sophisticated capabilities and some good data and the ability to make associations between that data, then the opportunity for it to be emergent and create some learning is kind of the second step, or the more mature use of digital automation. So we found this model helpful in terms of how we think about and talk about all of these various capabilities in automation. And so this will be a major focus of the member summit. And we hope to have examples from members of various projects they're working on, or what's worked and what hasn't, in terms of leveraging emerging digital automation to help complement human capability, or in some cases, possibly replace human capability. That's all I had on that slide. So, Kelly, do you want to talk a little bit about Zazzle?
Sure. Sorry. In case you have last minute Christmas gifts to buy and want some service innovation swag, I can't even remember why we just have a couple things up on our Zazzle store, and I don't honestly remember how it started, but one of them is this excellent context is as important as content mug. There's a couple, I think there's a do not put goals on activities notebook. There might be a mug of that as well. But so anyway, it's just a little bit of funny swag. There's a couple stickers there, and I'm taking suggestions for other logoed items if you would if you have a need for them, we'd be happy to put them up on the store.
So somebody showed up with a mug at one of our team meetings and reminded us that we have a company store. So you can find the events that are, so the longer term plan from an events is in the wiki, which Kelly showed you. The registration for those things that have been confirmed are on the website, on the webpage, serviceinnovation.org/events. And then same for the Academy, the kcsacademy.net/events.
And that the Academy webpage includes public KCS workshops of various kinds, as well as the KCS in Action phone calls.
And those workshops are offered by our certified trainers.
That's correct.
Typically, yeah. Very good. So, any questions, any comments? It's already looking like 2019 is going to be an equally busy year.
And we're always happy to take suggestions for topics that you want to talk about. So web sessions or team meeting topics, I'm happy to talk about what would be helpful for you.
Yeah, like use cases, a couple of things that are particularly of interest, which I think we're going to do a poll on in January, is dashboards. You know, how are people building dashboards for various stakeholders, the support agents, the managers, the executives, especially as this predictive capability starts to become real. It introduces yet another challenge in how we talk about the values support's creating and the measures that we use. It's a really interesting challenge to articulate the value of preventing things from happening, which is the whole goal of predictive customer engagement. But even how you present data and visualize data with respect to self-service success and the value of the knowledge base and the value of articles and the value of people's contribution, all of those things are, I think, interesting challenges that we'd like to get. If you have an example of dashboards, or like Monique gave us the coach dashboard example that she's using at Akamai, which is very interesting. So examples for that. Also use cases for leveraging some of these emerging digital automation capabilities. PTC has been very much on the front edge of this, and they shared Dylan. It's actually a neural network capability that improves the findability of articles by leveraging the content that's in cases that are linked to the articles. And some pretty interesting results from that. So use cases on using some of these digital automation capabilities would also be, I think, be very interesting. So if any of you have examples of that or things that you'd be willing to share, we can talk about it either at a team meeting or as a web session. So,
hey, I have a question for a future topic. I don't know if this interests others, but really around globalization, you know, building global tools, building global teams, building global knowledge. I know we're just starting to dip into that a bit more, and if others have an interest, we'd love to have those kind of discussions.
So there's a localization and translation has been a topic of conversation for some time, and we've partnered with Taos because they really specialize. That's the Translation Automation User Society, and a lot of our members are also members of Taos. But there's some pretty good, I think there's some pretty good things in the wiki if you do look up, search on translation. It continues to be a topic of discussion, so we hear that one quite a bit. So that will be something we'll try and focus on in the coming months.
Great, thanks.
Hi, this is Christine Egley, and I had a thought or two about broader content strategy and how that should exist in a KCS environment. Mm-hmm. Meaning all of the other content that's out there that's not following KCS, Are
Yeah.
there best practices that we could explore for how do you make the overall experience as effective as possible for customers?
So we just did our leadership committee meeting, which is where the benefactors and sponsor level members, the higher level members, get together and talk about focus items for the coming year. And that, what you just described, Christine, was one of the topics. I think we sort of jokingly called it big knowledge.
I like it.
And Sarah Feldman, who's on the phone with us and with MindTouch, comes from the content world and is now a certified trainer in KCS and has been talking a lot about how to reconcile, a content management strategy with KCS and how to deal with big knowledge. So,
And I think we're going to
definitely on the list.
Yeah,
Great.
and it seems to me, we haven't nailed this down yet, but I think we're probably going to talk about that at that team meeting in Phoenix in February, which we don't have. The information that's posted right now is just sort of generic team meeting, but I think that's going to be a topic there.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sarah, can you come to Phoenix in February? Sarah's on mute.
Way to put her on the spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, Christine, can you be there? We're taking reservations right now.
I would love to go. So I will make every effort to be there.
Nice.
Yeah, and I think the expansion of KCS and the connections that we can make with a content management strategy, and also with Agile. We've talked about updating the KDE role and training them on Agile and having them either link to stories. So if there's a pervasive issue, how do you get the attention of the development community? And I think one idea that would help that is if we can talk their language in terms of Agile, and if we can actually connect articles to stories that are in the roadmap or on the development calendar, or create new stories because of pervasive issues that are showing up. I think that's a great point of connection. So I see Agile, content management, the bigger idea of content management, and making those connections with KCS is something that's happening quite naturally. So good points of conversations. Any other comments, suggestions, questions? Well, I think that's all we had. Kelly or Melissa, anything else?
Thanks for being a member. It sure is fun.
Yeah, thanks everyone, and enjoy your holidays and Happy New Year.
And hopefully we'll see you or hear you at a session next year.
Thank you. Thanks for the update.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. Great. Congrats on a great year.
Thanks, Jake.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.